More or Less Resources presents Everything You Need to Know About the Single Christian Male, More or Less, Part 2. In the last video, we discussed the 4 stages in the lives of single Christian males: skunks, punks, monks, and hunks. Skunks, when it comes to relationships, are unhealthy and unaware. Punks are also unhealthy, however they are aware, they just don't care. Monks are unhealthy and aware, however they do care, so they've taken a season of their life to work on themselves before they do any more damage. And hunks, while not perfect, they have done the homework so that they can be in healthy relationships with the opposite sex. What else do you need to know? Well, to start with, there is no set path. A skunk can become a punk. Basically, this happens whenever the skunk wakes up one day, has a eureka moment, goes, I stink at this whole dating thing. I don't care. And voila, you have a punk. A punk can become a skunk. This happens when the punk says, okay, I've been goofing up till now and I know it, but I'll get it right the next time. But if they don't do anything to change who they are, well, now they're just fooling themselves. A skunk or punk can become a monk. In fact, that would be ideal. Sadly, a monk can also become a skunk or a punk. This happens when a guy leaves the monk stage prematurely. There is an unlikely path. It is highly unlikely that a skunk or a punk will just miraculously become a hunk. I won't say it's impossible, but it's highly improbable. Very, very seldom does God use the road to Damascus technique for changing men. Not saying he can't, just that's not his usual MO. Maturity is seldom microwaved. There is no end to the path. Being a hunk is not a destination. It is an ongoing journey, and sadly, a hunk can become a skunk or a punk. Typically, this happens with small compromises in character or forsaking the lessons that he learned in the monk stage, and before you know it, you can have a slow fade. You can choose a best path. A skunk or a punk can become a monk that leads to a lifestyle of being a hunk. So what exactly is it that starts in the monk stage and is maintained in the hunk stage? Well, for starters, the most important thing that a monk can do is work on his relationship with God. If you don't get this relationship right, I'm hard-pressed to give you any counsel regarding any of your other relationships. Working on direction and worthwhile goals is a great thing for a monk to tackle. What does that have to do with the relationships? Well, there's an indirect but very real correlation between guys who have an idea of what they want in the future and who they choose to date or pursue. And that segues nicely into figuring out types. Types in this case refers to several things. It refers to what type of woman do you want to pursue? What type of wife do you want to have? What type of family, marriage? Most importantly, you. What type of man, husband, father do you want to be? If a monk does work on these first 3 items, then a clarification of priorities is almost inevitable. However, it was still worth mentioning because there does need to be intentionality put to where you designate your resources, your time, your energy, your finances, your talents, everything that God has given you to bring him glory. And lastly, the glue that solidifies all this together are mentoring and accountability. Share all this with a brother further down the road who has wisdom and experience, who can challenge you and encourage you and help you redirect any stinking thinking that might still be lingering. Some final thoughts and warnings about being a monk and becoming a hunk. Guys, don't leave the monk stage prematurely. Typically the way this happens is you're talking to a nice gal, she laughs at your jokes just a little too hard, she tilts her head and smiles at you, and then she touches you on the shoulder. And then you have this very fast thought, okay, I think I'm done being a monk, I need to pursue her. Leaving the monk stage should be an intentional, prayerful, thoughtful decision that is not made in the heat of the moment. There is no set time for the monk stage. Man, I wish I could tell you that an hour a day for 90 days and you'll be the hunk that you want to be, but that may work for P90X, not so much for this. For some, the monk stage needs to be weeks, others it needs to be months, and for some it might be years. The best advice I can give you on this is to embrace the fact that your monk stage should be as long as your monk stage should be. If that thought does not bring you any comfort, then pray that God will give you a joy, excitement, and an appreciation for the season of your life, that he's going to reveal wonderful and amazing things to you. And finally, being single does not a monk make you. Brother, if you haven't been able to get a date for 6 months, that doesn't mean you've been a monk for 6 months, that just means you've been striking out. This is not a default relationship status, this is an intentional decision that is an investment in your future. Now, that's everything you need to know about the single Christian male. More or Less, Part 2.